Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. These are a series of webinars that we are organizing in the context of the COP27 that is going to be held now from November 6th to 18th in Egypt. So, this today we are having especially this the topic is inclusion in climate conference, negotiation and participation. So today we have three speakers. Madam Rishika Pardikar, she is the key speaker. She will be speaking on climate negotiations. She has participated too in UNCCCP COP earlier. And next speaker is Dr. Vasanta Lakshmi Madineni. She will speak on role of women in climate conferences. And the third speaker is myself, Dr. Insai Baskareti. I'll speak on climate change and disasters. So I welcome our first speaker, Rishika Pardekar. Here. Madam, you are available?
Hi.
Yeah, hi. So Rishika Pardekar is a freelance reporter based in Bangalore, India. Her areas of focus are wildlife conservation and climate change. Her work is primarily investigative and analytical and has appeared in digital outlets like Mongabe, India, Foreign Policy, The Daily Poster, The Third Pole, Wire Science, Article 14 and AGS, EOS, etc. So we'd like to listen to you, madam. Please. You can also add on to your experiences and briefly tell more about yourself, and we can start.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I'm a climate change and wildlife reporter. I'm based in Bangalore. I have been covering I've been covering environmental issues for almost 5 years now, and most of it is predominantly on climate reporting and also biodiversity. Um, I've followed climate negotiations twice from the ground. One was at Glasgow last year, that was COP26, and another was at Bonn, Germany this year. Both I covered on the ground, so I was actually present in person in such conferences. Um, I think because I was there, I can speak a little bit about inclusion, how people can be a part of the process. But I also know how exclusionary these processes are, because I doubt how many of you have actually taken part in these negotiations, because it's not a very inclusive process. Actually, some of it is targeted as exclusionary, because there are so many other issues when you want to be present in person, like visa issues, cost issues. So how many of us can actually afford to go to Germany or to Glasgow in Scotland, or somewhere else? So it's not very easy. I could go because I got a fellowship because I'm a journalist, but this time I won't be able to go because I can't afford to go all the way to Egypt by myself. So these processes are more exclusionary than they are inclusionary, but I'll come to that later. Um, Before I talk about negotiations and what actually happens, and how inclusionary or exclusionary it is, I want to give a little bit of background on what COPs are. So COP stands for Conference of Parties. Um, a conference is held every year, one conference every year. And in addition to that, there's also one other conference, which is a meeting of a subsidiary body under the UN, which happens in Bonn in Germany every year. So first, there's the mid Bonn conference, which happens in June, around June. Then we have the actual annual conference, which is in November. So in Bonn, Bonn kind of sets the agenda for the talks in November. And both of these talks, they happen under UNFCCC, which is the United Nations Framework Convention for Climate Change. So this is an international treaty. It was signed in 1992. And since then, every year we've had these conferences. Every year there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of discussion and debate. It's a lot of politics also, especially global north and global south, because global south, a group of developing countries, they have a lot of concerns to be raised, because we still need a lot of resources to develop, and sometimes resources means fossil fuels. Um, and also, developed countries have been strongly resisting some calls, because they don't want to give out finance, they don't want to invest. uh, I wouldn't say they don't want to invest, but even they are very reliant on fossil fuels. For example, oil and gas. Rich OECD countries are extremely reliant on oil and gas. So even they don't want to take on the burden of switching to renewables. So, and plus they have to support developing countries in terms of finances and technology transfer. So there's a lot of heated discussions between global north and global south. And since the convention was signed, it has been 1992, like 30 years now. There is little to show in terms of emission reduction, but yes, some emission reduction has happened, but very minuscule again. There's a lot more that needs to be done. Um, so this year, the COP will take place in Egypt, in Sharm el Sheikh. And like always, there's a lot of discussion on climate finance. Will the developing countries get the support that they need to go to renewables? Will there be compensation for loss and damage? What has happened because of historical emissions? So the developed countries have been developing from a long time now, for at least like 150, 200 years. So they have emitted a lot of carbon. And because of the emissions, because of their emissions, we are all suffering today. Like all the cyclones we see every year, whether on the East Coast or on the West Coast, it's a result of past emissions. So one prominent demand this time is loss and damage. Will poorer countries get some compensation for the damage that has already happened? And a routine demand is also climate finance. But apart from this, obviously, mitigation is also an important topic. Mitigation means how much will each country do to move to renewables? How much will we scale down our dependence on fossil fuels? And also adaptation. Adaptation means how much. So, for example, if you adopt practices like a crop that is saline resilient, then maybe you don't have to give up your farmland and go somewhere else. Maybe you can still grow some crops in a land that has already become saline. So there are some practices like this that you can do that can help with adaptation. This is also another issue this time. Um, so yeah, this is broadly the landscape. This is broadly what climate negotiations are about. Um, Now coming to the inclusion and exclusion part, this is actually very troubling because for the general public actually, because the reason not many know what happens at these conferences is because it is not open to public. No one can just log in and see what's happening. You cannot track these negotiations. You cannot know what's happening at these conferences because you are not allowed to actually view it unless you are accredited with UNFCCC. And accreditation can only happen under three badges. So one is the party badge, which if you'll get if you're associated with the government, whether you're a direct governmental ministry person or if you are affiliated maybe as some part of inter like a government and NGO program. Only then you'll have a party badge. Second one is if you're an observer. Observer is NGOs which are accredited with the UNFCCC. And third kind of party badge is media. So even media has to register. So only those who can actually get accredited with UNFCCC can enter these conferences and can track what happens. So this excludes, I think, maybe majority of the people who live on this planet who will be affected by climate change. So if my neighbor wants to maybe check what's happening in climate negotiations, they won't be able to because they have to fall under either of these batches. These three: party, which is government delegation, or NGO, accredited NGO. So you have to be registered, or an accredited media person. Um, so this is why everyone relies on media reports to see what is happening. And surprisingly, even media is not allowed in these rooms. So even if you register as media, most of the discussions that happen is close to media. So this happened to me when I was in Glasgow last year and when I was in Germany this year. Even though I was present, even though I was registered, many discussions are close to media. So media is not allowed to be inside negotiation rooms where actually countries say what they will do. So then you have to wait outside, see what has happened, see who will tell you what has happened, and then you have to triangulate and see, okay, this is actually what went on, and then you report about it. So it's a very tiring process in that way because access is a big problem. Now, being in person means also other costs like visa, for example, and we all know how unfair visa processes are. If it is held in the developing world, then chances of visa rejection are very high, and also the costs. So, not many of us can afford flight costs or hotel charges, especially during conference time. Hotel costs go sky high, so not many of us can afford it. So, there are a lot of procedural issues when it comes to accessibility and how inclusionary COPs are. And this is it's quite bad because that's where you know what your government is saying. If you can actually be present at the COP, you'll know what your government is promising to do. And tomorrow when they come back to India, you can ask them, okay, you promised to do this much, where is it, what are you doing? But if you don't even know what has happened there, then what, how will you seek accountability? So yeah, it's a big process. It's very troubling to follow also. um, Yeah, I don't know if anyone has any questions up to now. If anyone has any questions, I can maybe take questions and then I can continue.
Yeah, this is regarding your participation. But otherwise, let us say exactly it is between the governments actually, these cops are. But the civil society, how they can contribute during the negotiation process. Within that, again, the media, that the role that you played, how it is able to communicate what is happening there and to the outside world. So you can add on every day how you are able to reach other people in their language actually, because that language is different. Negotiation language is different. So how you could do?
So yeah, as civil society, like I mentioned, you have to be an NGO which is registered with the UNFCCC if you want to track the negotiations process. So no one can just check in online and watch the negotiations. That's not allowed. You have to be registered with the UNFCCC. So you can go to their website. if you're part of civil society. If you're but you have to be an accredited NGO, or you have to be some kind of registered organization to even get accreditation. It's a huge process. So I've only registered as media, so I don't know what exact process there is for other civil society. But if you're an NGO, you can register as an observer. So that is the official term for non-party, not non-media persons, which is observer. You have to again register, and then you'll be allowed to track negotiations. Um, as media, again, you need a letter from the editor. You need someone to validate who you are, and then you have to register. Um, Once you do that, also there are many hurdles for media because media is not allowed in most of those rooms. So it's a lot of it is designed to keep public accountability out. So it's still a very closed process. But yeah, you can still try to talk to a lot of people, try to know, you can still be in the loop and see what's happening. Sometimes it takes a while. Like if I'm reporting on a conference, I try to get in touch with people maybe one month before, because I know I won't be allowed in those rooms. So then I try to keep a background, like some background ready, and that's how I report.
Yeah, there is a question from chatting. Rishi Singh is asking, uh, there was any discussion on Lancet reports in COP?
Yeah. So actually, even this time, the health is a whole different section, and there are discussions that happen on health and the Lancet report. So you can even check the COP27 presidency, the website, and they have a whole. I can maybe share a link. I'll try to find it later, and I'll share a link on the chat. But health is a part of discussion. So there are different sections each time. There'll be some on gender, there'll be some on health. So there are many discussions going on simultaneously. So health and Lancet reports are definitely one.
Yeah, if we consider the role of women in these negotiations, so you have represented how many women participated, say percentage wise or something. You had kind of feeling that is it rightly represented or
I don't know in terms of percentage, but I wouldn't be surprised if uh, generally, like what the groups that you think are marginalized even in society in general, for example, women, or tribal groups, or whoever is generally marginalized in society is definitely marginalized at UNFCCC negotiations also. So I won't be surprised if I take out a list of all the participants. So UNFCCC has a list of participants. Maybe I don't know if it is already out now or if it will be out in a few days. But they provide an entire list of participants. So it runs into thousands of names. But I'm quite sure if you filter all the names for who is what, you'll find the same kind of marginalizations that is there even in society in general.
regarding the sensitivity towards the climate change, who is more sensitive? Because the impacts when we see, they'll be more on women and children, or as you said, the marginalized, the indigenous communities. So many are there, including small island nations. So in this context, then if women are a stakeholder, important stakeholder, then how do you want to bring this? What do you suggest so that in the future, at all levels, there is a better representation?
I don't know uh, procedurally what I can recommend, but I would, if you're a woman and if you're interested in climate, then just you I would encourage you to register, because I don't know how to solve the systemic issue of marginalization at UNFCCC level, but I would definitely encourage every marginalized group to actually register in these conferences and keep a track of what's happening, because I can only suggest what I can do, and that's what I would do. If I'm very worried about what will happen to women and children, I would register and I would take part in discussions that are happening on health, that are happening on gender, or whatever other issue I consider personal for me. So actually, there's one question in the chat box which talks about, can individuals participate? Definitely, individuals can participate, but you have to register either as a party member or as an observer, which is again an NGO group. or as media. So you need to have some kind of accreditation, some kind of validity to actually be there. You can go to the UNFCCC website and check what kind of registration processes are there. It's already closed for COP this time. I think it closed maybe 2 weeks ago or 2.5 weeks ago. Uh, but you can check the registration process. It'll have a lot of uh, what can I say? It'll guide you well. You can see what is there, but it's not an easy process. So that's one big problem with these negotiations is that it's not just made available online freely for everyone.
Are there any special groups related to climate change? Otherwise, they could join during other times and continuously participate in the discussions, debates, and to understand. Say, women-related groups are there, youth-related groups are there, then agriculture-related groups are there. Let us say. So, do you know any such groups where you are also participating?
No. So if you're a registered NGO or any other civil society group which is actually registered, you can just apply to UNFCCC. You can apply for accreditation. I don't know what the process is like because, like I said, I've only registered as media, so I don't know what the process entails. But if you're a women's rights group or if you're any other kind of civil society group, you can apply to directly to UNFCCC, or you can at least check what the procedure is.
From your understanding, what is the kind of problem that we have related to climate crisis currently? If we don't act now, let us say in the next 10 years, with the intensity or within next 2, 3 years, then how do you see the future?
Actually, there is a bit of reason to feel hope because so there's a body called International Energy Agency. It's called IEA, and they just released a report today which shows that fossil fuels will peak soon. All fossil fuels, so coal, oil, and gas. They see demand. So peak means it's at a height, and now from now on it can only fall. So I can share a link to IEA reports. It just came out today morning. I'm yet to go over it. Um, but they say that all of it, coal, oil, and gas, is at a peak globally, and demand will fall. Production will fall. So there is reason to feel hopeful, but obviously we all have to push our governments to do more. So in India, we have to ask our governments, what are you doing? Where are you building renewables? And even renewables, the scale matters. Even there, you can't just go destroy grasslands and deserts to plant the solar to build all your solar capacity. But we can still feel hopeful because signs are not extremely bad. There is definitely a reason to be concerned because just because projections say that demand and production will fall doesn't mean it always will. Uh, but yeah, since so because of the war in Ukraine and energy prices, many countries have been forced to build renewables because they have no other choice now. So because of the how global politics is playing out, it is at least the projections say that fossil fuels will likely be out sooner than before the war.
As a civil society, how do we need to come together and as a network or the people who are interested in this particular issue very much? So what do you suggest? Are there any ideas? How do we go about even because you are associated now with our group? So we have an alliance of several institutions, universities and colleges, and we have youth, thousands of youth associated through the institutions, and all stakeholders are associated with us, our group. Council for Earth Leadership in Sustainability and Council for Green Revolution and the Green Alliance for Conservation of Eastern Ghats and many other organizations as partners. At least 30 organizations are we are working together now. So, what do you suggest in the future that we could have a kind of think tank group or action group or yeah? or even specialized women group on climate change, something like that. Any suggestions?
I haven't really worked with society, so I don't know what really to suggest. I've never been an activist, or I've not worked on the ground with civil society groups. I think what you're doing now is great. Like communication is a big part of it, and this is another issue with climate conferences. So the discussion, the point you brought up about language the last time in your previous question. So it all happens in English. Reports are in English. So there only you end up sidelining majority of the population. So if you can take what comes out of conferences and then take it to people in their languages, like, so now I know that we are having this discussion in English, but if you're based in Andhra Pradesh, or if you're based in Tamil Nadu or Karnataka, if you can communicate all these same things in Kannada or in Telugu or in Tamil, then that will be a big service, I think. As a person who's in media, I can talk about how important it is to bring issues into the public domain. So this is what I can suggest. Um, yeah, try to make it less complex, more simplified, so that more people get engaged in the process. That is one. Again, this is an issue I keep pointing out with UNFCCC process, which is very exclusionary. So if more people are aware of it, maybe more people will register. Maybe more people will ask for the process to be made more transparent and more public. So engagement is crucial. Because it's all of our future. So a lot more people have to be engaged. So I think this is good. This is why I agreed to talk, because I want my reporting, and I want to bring what little I know to more people. So I think what you're doing now is good, and I think more people have to be engaged in the process. So maybe if you can do similar events and webinars in local languages, bring it to maybe even villages, and see what their concerns are, adaptation, or loss and damage, whatever else it is. So I think that's a good step. But I don't know what else to suggest, because I'm not really been part of civil society apart from media. So yeah, it's up to you. But communication is definitely a big part.
Yeah, good. So we'll continue our discussion and in this regard and be part of our work because it's an alliance of all the institutions, organizations. It's a network also. So it will be good because your experience and understanding what is happening globally and taking some decisions and acting locally as well as policy advocacy that we can do together. Thank you very much, Rishika. It was great talking to you. And there are certain questions like non-profit organizations, how to register and join. If you have any links, you can put in the chatting.
Yeah,
So
I'll
that
just
would help. Yeah, that would help them to understand.
yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Actually, the process for this time is already closed, but I'll just share a link of the website which you can check maybe next time well in advance. Um, I'll just share a link. So that's the website. You can go check for registrations. It's closed this time, but maybe for Bonn next year, which will happen around June. So Bonn, the conference in Germany, or later on, I think the next climate conference will happen in the UAE, United Arab Emirates. That'll be around November next year. So whether in June or in November, you can like actually do it well before June and November. Just go on that website and see what the registration process is for NGOs. And yeah, you can or if you have even any queries, also you can directly get in touch with them. You can ask them what problem you're facing, and I'm sure they'll help out.
Yeah, thank you very much for your talk as well as your explanation, explaining certain basic fundamentals. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
UB Madam online, Dr. Vasanta Lakshmi is also speaking on the role of women, especially in negotiations, the next speaker.
Okay.
Yeah, it will be nice to listen to her also. I welcome Dr. Vasanta Lakshmi Garu. Yeah. She is an assistant professor from Vasavi College of Engineering. She has done PhD from JNTU and done MSc from Andhra University in Biochemistry. She is an environmentalist basically. She is also member of Council for Green Revolution and she is our earth leader. She had been very passionate about environment, climate change, and all these issues. And yeah, I requested Dr. Vasanta Lakshmi to start her presentation. Welcome, madam.
Thank you, sir. Good.
Somebody raised the hand. Excuse me, just a second. You put your question in the chatting, please. D Tulsi by. Yeah. Yeah, continue.
Good evening to all.
Yeah, good evening. Continue. Do you have any problem, madam?
Yes, sir. I'm trying to. Video. I want to share PPT, sir.
Shall I share from my computer?
Yes, sir. Yes. Good evening, everyone. Today, I'm going to talk on role of women in climate negotiations. Uh, I was the participant in COP12, which was held in Hyderabad. So, as a observer, I had opportunity to participate. From my experience and the latest information which was collected from the website, I'm talking how what role women can play in climate negotiations. So here I want to start with the analyzation of this symbol, where what is our responsibility. From the madam's talk, we come to know that everything is closed. Still, they are planning in COP20, they are planning to improve the gender gap. So before going to do discussion on that, we have to just, this is my perception. So I thought this round is consider it as earth, and this plan, what is the symbol plus is added is a balance. Always humanity should grow vertically and as well as the horizontal. What we are getting monetary benefits from the resources, everything we are going to measure in the form of money, what we are getting from. But there are intrinsic values and as well as extrinsic values for everything. So I thought this straight line indicating intrinsic values, what we call it as generally characters. In corporate world, they are called as big organizing principles. In ancients, they're represented, they're use the term as morals. But whatever it may be, we need to have intrinsic values that represents the vertical line and horizontal line, what we are doing daily works like jobs, whatever we are doing for our benefit. So those I'm considering it as extrinsic values. Both should be balanced. Intrinsic and extrinsic value should be balanced. This part is in our hand. It's women's responsibility to teach our children that importance of intrinsic and extrinsic values and how to balance both. This is what this picture was taken from the Lima COP20. So there the statement is this: about 45% of the COP26 unit are now women. But almost all of the most senior public facing the role as key taken by men. Maybe women are participating, but when they are taking the key decisions, women participation is very less. So this is the how year wise. This actually this years are not visible, but this the data is there from 2000 onwards. Data is there each year. If you are going to observe, only 30% women representation is there, either as a decision makers or either observers or key decision makers. Only the women participants are this much. Still, that is the figure is below 30%. Still, the figure is below 30%. Next slide, sir. Right. This is actually the women organization which is given this data. When if any COP they are going to make certain agreements according to the Paris Agreement. If they want to reach the aims of the Paris Agreement, definitely they need the support of women and girls. Why? Because 50% of population is women and girls. Without their participation, they can't achieve the Paris Agreement goals. This was the direct statement given by the UN President. And another thing, most of the household works, fuel consumption, maintenance of natural resources at household level, anything if we are going to produce, definitely it comes to the household level. So household level work is going to be maintained by the women most of the countries. Because of that reason, women must have take part. Why? Because their thinking is diversity in thinking and their involvement in all levels, right? So it is not only in the climate negotiation rooms or it's only particular to climate change. Definitely climate change is impacting the woman and child in case of health factors or all. It's not the case. Anytime if it is sensitive group, definitely it is going to be attacked, either it is the climate or anything. So here the case, climate change is definitely affecting the women. When the problem is facing by the women, definitely they have to voice out. If they want to voice out, definitely they need the proper platforms. So according to already the recent participant, we heard from her that there are no chances to voice out. Also, only option for us, we have to register with some NGO and we have to go along with the NGOs. Next slide. So why women should involve? I'm not differentiating the masculine energy. So here feminine and masculine is both the qualities are present in women, but few things are dominant in few males. So diplomatic nature. Why? Because this is the thing we are going to practice in our household to get the common opinion and common agreement at our homes. So definitely we should have born diplomatic nature. justification. When we are giving birth and we want to protect our future, definitely we need to have the justification and wittiness and perception and endurance and kindness. I'm not saying these are women qualities, these are feminine qualities. Definitely men are women may have these qualities. Those who are having these qualities definitely is going to be of good negotiators. We generally observe that women is having predominant of these knowledges, sorry, these skills. Right. What is the workforce? Really, in which fields women is working? In industry, if we are going to observe, so here the one first figure which is having highest percentage, that is 61.5%, that is in service sector. Next, the least sector is industry, where the women employees are very, very less. Our women contribution is less in the industry. In agriculture, it is 25%. Coming to the India, it is going to be of equal, almost equal percentage, but this is the global workforce. So figures may vary to country, but this is a general observation. In parliaments, 23% of women, means women leadership is only 23%. So as a CEOs and Fortune 500 companies, only 4% women is playing the role. And in case of academic sector, and if you are going to take the different fields, education, culture, like that, in economy, in the field of economy, only 4% role is taken by the women. So it definitely we need to increase the women participation in economic field also. This was a report UNFCCC. Madam said I have taken this from the UNFCCC 2022 report, right? So if you are going to, we belongs to Asia, then if you are going to observe this, these figures are almost below the 40%, below the 40%, 27.3, 32.1, only one is 44.8%. So when coming to the Western Europe, it's a little bit better. Latin America is also better. African and Asian countries, women participation and women negotiation should increase. Right. Exactly, these are the figures where the women participants are. So here the 2% is chief mediators and key role, key decision makers. 4% of witness and signatories, just they are going to observe and they are going to witness and sign it. 9% is negotiators. This is the women role in the total strength. This is different years. This is where actually they are taking some decisions. At 2016 onwards, they have taken decisions to improve the women participation in climate negotiations and the participation in the COP. Then they have taken some measures in 2016, even though after taking of these so much measures, even though women participation is less. This is where exactly Lima work program on gender. From where onwards really the governments and monetary bodies has taken some importance and pressure to increase some steps to increase the women power at different areas. How can they increase the women power? They given the name as gender action plan. How can they involve the women at different levels, right? Priority levels where capacity building, knowledge and management and communication level, there women can be involved. And gender balance, participation of and women's leadership is a priority area B. Next, priority area coherence. Priority area D is gender responsiveness, implementation and mean of implementation. Next, monitoring and reporting groups. In all these areas, they can increase the women strength. This is the gender action plan. It was taken in the COP20. This was they want to implement from the COP20. Next, how can they, so gender action plan, how they want to implement, and who is going to implement this gap at country level, right? Constituted bodies, national gender and climate change focal points, and like Ministry of Environment Forest in India, right? Associated branches, pollution control boards, and other focal points. Next, parties and relevant organizations, secretariat, and the research community. So where these people are given instruction with the how to implement, they are with having proper plan, right? How they implement the gap. So actually what I thought is only decision making at climate negotiations is not going to impact. Women should involve in the major fields. So according to my knowledge, this is these are the 7 major fields where women should involve at the decision making level. One is culture and art, second one is the economy, third one is the education, fourth one is the philosophy, politics, religion, science and technology. Sir, friend, before slide only. Right. Coming to the culture and art, in olden days, definitely women are encouraged in this field. Nowadays, women are leaving this field and they are in the education. The women population is increasing, participation is increasing in education. Philosophy is little bit, religion is also little bit, science and technology is also little bit. So only thing, the good participation is observed in the education field. But the thing is, if we want change in any of these, every field is related to environment. Definitely at all these levels, we need to increase the women participation at different levels, as negotiators, as key decision makers, and as well as then there is going to be little bit balance is observed in all the actions. Even if you observe the science and technology, only few names are going to be observed. If you are going to satellite launching program, if you see the list of people, this is only Tessie Thompson is the only name we observed in the recent years, in the 20th century, 21st century also. So still we need to increase the number of women participation in even though science and technology. So once definitely, only thing is we are in the education field, but whatever we are receiving, education is a mere of information. It is not real education. Definitely we need to change the definition of education. Next slide. Right. So why? Because I have here specially mentioned, it may be of not related to climate change negotiations. So what Madam rightly said is, as a party member only we can enter into the COP. We know that the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, after attending the first environmental meeting, she proposed the Wildlife Protection Act and all those things. Definitely, as a person, the women percentage increased in the politics is going to be make a lot of changes in decision making regarding the climate change and environmental protection or conservation activities. So definitely, we hope these are the, so here the so many women figure women are there. They are they are taken their offices at prime minister level and president level. Definitely, if these people are there, still many countries women have been underrepresented in the government and different institutions. Even though it is the tendency, still it is the women role is very less, right? So one good thing is whatever maybe the percentage is going to be increased from 2019 data, that is going to be of 24% of women in the different electoral roles or political roles. In the if you are going to observe the same figure in 2013, it is going to be of 88%. So this is good thing we are observing. The increased percentage is increased, but the thing is, one good thing is whatever electoral body they elected, they have taken offices. They are the charge, on seat, and they are at the decision making role. That is a good thing, and that is a hope for future negotiations, women negotiations, and women participations in different fields. I hope definitely this women participation is going to be increased at different levels, and we are going to get with the common agreements without causing any disturbances. So definitely that can be achieved by the women in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, madam, for your talk. You want to take any questions if there are any?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If anybody wants to ask, please write in chatting or yeah. So we'll wait. I think we'll see if somebody is putting on chatting, then it will be easy.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Now I will start sharing my thoughts on this climate change and disasters. So this is an important issue because the disasters, the frequency, the intensity of disasters that are happening as we are witnessing now, because the climate change, this is not a natural phenomenon that is happening. It is mostly the anthropogenic causes are there, and it is the emissions that these greenhouse gases it led to global warming, climate change, and the overall the population. When people are there, then only disaster term is applied. If there are no people, because it is mostly related to human beings and their assets and other things, other capitals. So this particular disaster thing is very uh, this globally now we are witnessing almost like every day so many things are happening uh, around the world, and there is very little that the governments are able to do, but overall the communication or research or the knowledge on disasters, everything that has improved. We have modeling, even we have the meteorological data, and we also understand the predictions. Mostly we are able to tell, even if we don't act now, within how many years, what would be the global average temperatures increase. So all these trends we are able to tell, and in reality also we are able to see. And in spite of knowing, if we are not acting, so what is the use of science? Then where is the leadership? And we have, especially the country represented by the heads of the nations, Even many politicians, in spite of knowing the facts, which communicated well by their own scientific community, but the climate change denials, that is one of the biggest thing happening, including the media is also becoming part of this kind of, let us say, there is a very big cyclone or tornado or something happened in a particular country. They're telling that a cyclone happened and this many people died, but they're not relating this factor to the climate change. Even the sea level rise. On an average, the sea level is rising. The incidence of storm surges and the incident of this kind of cyclones or tornadoes, typhoons, they are increasing. Then with the surge is happening and the coastal communities, when they are underwater and intense floods are happening, but still they are not communicating in a language telling that yes, these are some of the impacts of climate change also. So that kind of communication is not happening. Even media is not communicating properly. I think there is a lots of see, even the documents, sixth assessment report that is published, we have several thousands of papers, at least 3,000 plus papers to make one report. There are 4 such reports, including the synthesis report. Then from media, I think we need to have the specialized wings who are working to understand the trends, and they should able to communicate in the common language. Recently, we have seen even UN using such jargon. They said code red for humanity, monsoon on steroids, climate crisis, act now. So there are so many the kind of jargon they're trying to say, so that there will be awareness at all levels, and there will be some actions by all stakeholders. I think media sometimes I feel they are behind in some developed countries, and they are not able to communicate. And even if they are communicating, how many are really watching? A song is trending into millions, a movie is trending into millions, but not the information that is telling that you are in the soup of this disastrous and climate crisis situation. Why don't you act? So this information total viewership is very low. So the statistics prove that yes, people are not taking this climate change very seriously, and we need massive awareness and dissemination of knowledge, and including the scientists who are communicating through their research papers. They should not end up in helping them to get a better positions. It is not for their promotion, but ultimately, if they share some knowledge, I think they have to take even more responsibility to see that this information gets penetrated, and then there are some actions. And this is very critical. I think this is what somewhere that force is not existing. Even leadership with integrity is very less nowadays. And our leadership, I mean to say, all kinds of leaders, even a scientist is a leader, a teacher is a leader, a politician is a leader. So everybody is a leader from all professions. I think this integrity is required, and we know there are already so many other crisis things happening globally. The United Nations is not able to bring all the stakeholders together, all the countries together, and take immediate decisions and actions. And the whole world is getting into a multipolar kind of world. There are so many other organizations are being formed, which are geographical or which are common interest groups, and we are going beyond. I think when this kind of complex relationships and complex situation that we have in this current crisis, especially after this corona and with the recession, and especially insecurities globally, or the peace. There is less peace globally as of now, and including the recent biggest disasters that are happening related to flood or drought, especially in China, the biggest drought that we are having in Europe, or the floods in Pakistan that happened. And in many other countries, they are happening so commonly. Now, these disasters have become uh, a part of life. So I think we should not take as the new norm of the current situation, but we need to act. And in the whole process, telling that because of recession, we need to create more employment and our GDP should increase, and in all these kind of things, the environmental laws are being diluted in many countries. I think governments are already non-compliant. Compliance is one of the biggest existing thing where even the court judgments are not being honored by the stakeholders. So there is a lot, I think, because in this current situation, the civil society, they need to be very vigilant, and they should play an important role in all the decisions made by the government, because it is not about our future alone. It is the future of the future, the present generations, and especially the younger population. Say in India, we have the highest number of youth globally also in one country. But if you see after 30 years, what kind of environment we are giving, what kind of resources we are giving, what is the lifespan that we are giving, average lifespan, because with this current situation of the pollution, climate change, and the living conditions, they're not going to live happily. And the debt of the nation is one of the biggest challenge, and energy crisis, oil peak, coal peak. So all these peaks are reaching very soon. So what is next then? See, we thought in the model, economy, energy, and environment are the three triple E factors, where for a better economy, we use energy. That was the kind of formula we had all these years. But now, with the environment degrading, and you want to improve the economy and use all the energy resources here, like fossil fuels, which also lead to climate change kind of factor. Environment means I am talking about climate change also. I think this formula is not going to work. So well-being of people is not about just this materialistic kind of lifestyle. I think there is a lot. The carbon footprint we need to come down. The ecological footprint we need to bring down. And overall, I think our way of life, that is the minimalist way of life, is very much required as of now. And also nature-based solutions we need to adopt, because nature is the best means, even in spite of so many things happening around. It has the potential to mitigate many factors which we are talking now. In Corona times, when lockdowns happened, we have seen how nature could treat itself. We had better water flowing. So I think the people are the biggest threat for this planet, and including our own existence is nearing on this earth. So soon extinction, we are leading ourselves, as we have caused the extinction of several other species on this earth. And it's a kind of curse on human beings, and we ourselves will be leading. And many times the countries are fighting with kind of saying that, let us say, when we say the developed countries are which use high energy, or their per capita emissions are very high. So if we tell those countries to support, say, the small island nations, which would emerge very soon, or very poor countries, which they can't face this kind of disaster situation now, where so to support, I think they are not participating or contributing. So that is a very big factor. What they are telling the other way, didn't you do? It means the other way around. You by population, you are very high, and on an average from your country, this many emissions are coming. Even agriculture is producing emissions. Like that, many other factors they try to bring in and try to tell that you are also doing, I am doing like that. So I think this is not leadership. So I think putting blame on somebody, but acting and admitting the facts is one of the important things of a leader. And I think this thing should happen. But here, disasters are not limited to one sector. We have to understand many times disaster means we say if about this many number of people died, then we say a kind of disaster. No, we have the social fabric or the total the relationships that are existing in a geography between communities. All these things would break down the employment or even their disease, health. So many things are related. So this will have an impact in the society, and definitely economic impacts are very big nowadays because of information. People are avoiding those hazardous places, and they themselves are at least the lives are not getting affected much. But economic losses are very high. But sure, I am telling within this 1 to 3 years, one of the biggest crises that would happen is related to food security, because there is a direct relationship. This energy is used for urea. Then if we don't have enough urea, means because the oil prices are going up and gas prices are going up, so we cannot produce enough urea. Then how you are going to sustain the agriculture? So that is very fundamental. So with food insecurity, people might have money, but they may not have something to eat. They cannot even buy. And recently we have seen people requesting wheat export wheat from countries like India. And there are so many things happening. But ultimately, the natural resources, the carrying capacity of a geographic region, the water, the soil, especially soil depletion is so high. The water is polluted everywhere, almost all. No water is drinkable, but people are still drinking. It means it is having direct impact, and all the plants are being cultivated with polluted water. At least human beings are filtering and drinking by some other means, some of them. But the plants take directly the polluted water. So what we are eating is not the food. So you may not use the chemicals as pesticides and all chemical fertilizers, but ultimately through water and through air, the air pollution is so high. So ultimately, this what we eat is getting affected. So these all these natural capitals that we have, they are also in this disaster. They are like in flooded areas. Sometimes the sand will come onto the fields. What the farmer will do? Otherwise, waterlogging will happen. See, in Pakistan, they can't even sow the next crop because already so much waterlogging is there due to the earlier flood. So it might take sometimes 2 years, 3 years also. The drought is one of the biggest threat. The natural factors leading to migrations, global mass exodus of population, like Syria is one of the beautiful example. Even in Afghanistan, I have made a study in Herat province, where people are migrating not because of war or not because of other unrest or political and other things, because of drought. So this is a very big factor. So we have to consider these factors, how this climate change will have impacts. And the physical infrastructure, whether it is communications, roads, bridges, or the buildings, or institutions, I think many things are getting impacted because of the disasters. And this will have direct impact on the life and livelihoods of the communities. So this is also one big factor. And so like that, we have many factors related to disasters. But ultimately, what is important is the human knowledge or understanding about these disasters or this knowledge, skills, and other things are also the survival skills are also need to be taught. In Kedarnath, when these sudden flash floods happened due to cloudburst, there were some educated people who were not they in the flood water. They did not go, but they climbed the hills, but they could not survive even one day because they don't have that coping capacity or survival minimum skills or understanding. So even in Kerala floods, we have seen many disasters happen because they did not move. They because they never thought that floods would come in their places and their houses would be completely submerged. So this kind of consciousness and awareness, the knowledge right from the childhood, especially the mock drills need to be done. The civil defense mechanism need to be improved. Then community-based disaster management. Yes, this is very, very essential. That need to be brought up, and including NSS, NCC, or even the programs like which we are developing called Earth Leaders. I think we need to work a lot on these things so that we build the resilient communities and resilient systems to cope with disaster situations. And also, we need to continuously participate and create this policy advocacy decision making process. We should be part of that. Otherwise, the mean programs and schemes from election to election, these are different completely, which will not help us, our future generations to exist also. So I think there is a lot which we need to do. And we are having this conference of people that COP27 that is happening in Egypt. So in parallel, we are having from Council for Earth Leadership and Sustainability, and with at least 30-40 partners, we are having a parallel programs. So including this today's webinar is also part of that sequence of things that we are doing. So I request all of you to participate in your respective whatever capacities and positions and your knowledge because there is a at least annually, at least for about 10-15 days, if we intensively work on this, there will be enough understanding and spread of knowledge on these issues and challenges. And we will also involve all stakeholders. I mean to say even politicians, bureaucracy, scientists, youth, women, children, farmers. So all communities will be involved in this process. So this is one way. And yeah, we request you to take up some programs individually in your respective places, and physically some of you could come to our center at Kartal and participate. So there are various things. We will be communicating these things to all of you soon. So thank you very much for this opportunity. If there is any question, I can take up. Otherwise, I will close. Yeah, there is one question from Syed Khaled. That is, what is the role of Residence Welfare Association in disaster? So in community-based disaster management, this Residence Welfare Association is also part of the same thing. So Residence Welfare Association is a community working for the welfare of those particular residents. So within this, you need to have like civil defense was one thing which was earlier existing. That is, first you should have some equipment, then you should have proper communication within your network. Let us say there is a communication failure. Let us say your cell phones are not working, but how do you communicate with each other? Then again, within your community, you should have different teams. Say there is an alert team and a rescue and relief team. and in evacuation team. And even after reaching a relief shelter, one team should need to take care of the elderly people, women and children especially, and even provide some basic food and medicine like materials. So there are so many things. I worked earlier with so many community-based disaster management groups. So we can work on that. If you have any thing in your area, if your residence association is there, we can support you in this regard, how to organize yourselves uh, better for this all kinds of disasters. Yeah, there are no more questions. So thank you very much. Thanks to everyone, and today's two speakers, they spoke very well. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm closing now.